Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I think it's important that the House, first of all, reflects on where the Conservatives left our community. I will before when they left power. The fact that the numbers of people who claimed who are economically inactive have gone up from 2.1 million in 2019 to 2.8 is something that I think members would reflect on. And the fact that the bill for incapacity benefits went up from 34 to 51 billion is quite shocking. And so it is interesting that they feel that they're able to share their pearls of wisdom to the Chamber after leaving the world in such a sorry state. In fact, I'm sure that Disraeli and Peel must be turning in the graves the way that the Conservatives have climbed into the gutter of these proposals that are before us this evening. There are some real challenges, and what we need to be seeing, Madam Deputy Speaker, is a true culture change both in the benefit system and a culture change in the employment world to actually help people get into work. And part of that culture change should be a trauma-informed approach, both in our the way that the DWP and our civil service work, but also how our society works so that we can be helping those people into work where they can. I'd also, Madam Deputy Speaker, reflect on the sorry state that the Conservative left our NHS in after starved of cash and the fail of investment that we saw for many years. It is a great pity how many residents came to me in my first year of being an MP for Torbay who weren't able to gain access to the operations that we required due to the lack of investment by the Conservatives over many years, where they bled money out of the capital system to cover costs of revenue. This is utterly shameful. Torbay Hospital still continues to crumble. And sadly, I'm afraid to say that under the new Labour government, we are still seeing £250 million worth of cuts to our NHS services in year. And with the Conservatives undermining people with mental health challenges, £21 million worth of those cuts are set to take place against our Devon partnership system. Happily give way.
I'm grateful to them to give way. It was the Conservative government that brought in the mental health investment standard to ensure parity between mental health. It is this government that has made that capital cut. It is this government that is not meeting that standard. I'm intrigued to understand where he thinks there is so much difficulty in understanding that and why the Labour government are making those cuts when it comes to mental health payments.
I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for giving way, and I would reflect on the savage cuts to public health that occurred, and also one issue that I would reflect on particularly is the numbers of people who sleep rough on our streets. And as a young Liberal, it's something that I campaigned on more than 30 years ago, and sadly, those rough sleepers are just the tip of the iceberg of some of those challenges that we have within our society. I would also reflect on how, I go back to the Devon Partnership Trust and the cuts there, so that is a real challenge. I now really want to move on to access to work, and I know that ministers do see this and have been on the record of seeing it as one of the best kept secrets. But I fear that it has not continued to perform as strongly as it could to drive people into work. In fact, I know myself and others have real concerns around changes to this system that could undermine it. The fact that we have, if you have a disability, you're 50% more likely to be out of work. A quarter of people who are registered blind are in work. That clearly means that 75% are out of work. And those are shocking figures. I welcome the fact, and the Liberal Democrats welcome the fact, of the Charlie Mayfield report, which is looking at how we can engage with appropriately the employment world and seeing what positive lessons can be learnt from our nearby colleagues in Europe. And I look forward to that coming forward, but perhaps the government got the horse and the cart the wrong way round, as perhaps that report should have been undertaken before the Employment Rights Bill was actually progressed. Finally, I'd like to come to something that Liberal Democrats have voted against on 3 occasions of this Parliament, and that is the two-child limit and the benefit cap. Yet some people, what for the widow and the children where the husband dies? But what choice was there? I'm just shocked that the Conservatives have such levels of heartlessness that they're turning those back on those individuals in what they alluded to there. We have 4.5 million children living in poverty within the United Kingdom. That's every 3rd child living in poverty. I reflect that when I visited Barton Hill Academy in recent years, I asked the kids what they liked and what they didn't like about Torbay. And it wasn't so much about the litter and things like that you expect. It was about mom and dad not being able to make ends meet. And I wonder how many of those youngsters were impacted by the two-child limit. So I would, in conclusion, I would say that there are some elements of this bill that as Liberal Democrats we welcome, such as managing the benefits bill, a return to face-to-face assessments where they can, but others of this are totally derisible. For us, we see the benefit system akin to our NHS, something that should be there to support people to live their best lives, and therefore we will not be supporting this motion before us tonight.
And with an immediate 4-minute time limit, Luke Akerst.